Hello and welcome to another great edition of Beyond the Hype with Black Enterprise. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr., your host, Senior Vice President and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. And you guys, you know I say it every show, but it's still true. This is going to be another great edition of the show, and this is going to be one you won't forget. Listen, if you're listening on any of our platforms, blackenterprise.com, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, and also YouTube, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, the replay of this show and every other episode of Beyond the Hype and all of our premium content. So make sure you do that. Tell all your friends to like, share, subscribe, comment, because it's a lot of great stuff that we have on hand for you. But listen, today is such a great pleasure for me because we are going to be talking with a literal living legend, an icon, award-winning actor, groundbreaking sports broadcaster. I got to meet her several years ago because she was one of the Black Enterprise Women of Power Legacy Award honorees. And she's here to talk about her brand new memoir, Plain Jayne. Please welcome to the show, the one and only Jayne Kennedy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so proud to be on the show. It's just been a dream come true. And I had such a great time at the Black Enterprise event when I went there. And my four daughters, Butch told me, do not come without bringing your four daughters. So I brought my four daughters, and we had a blast, I have to say.
Well,
Thank you for having
we had a blast with you, and what it brings to mind, I'm looking at kind of the description of your memoir, and it says inspiring and compelling, and that's everything you are. I mean, we had an interesting conversation at the I guess it was like a brunch area at the venue where the conference is being held, and you had me laughing so hard. It just had a good time just at the brunch, just having, I guess I was having my usual omelet or whatever. But just an amazing. But I really want to talk about your title of your memoir because we who know you, and of course I'm an NFL. I came out of an NFL household, so we're
Okay.
going to talk a little bit about you're doing the NFL today. But I was like, oh my God, when you first started doing that, my mother was crazy about you, and and so we don't think of you as plain, except you are like just cool. Jayne is cool. So there's this juxtaposition of this person that we see as an iconic barrier breaker, groundbreaker. At the same time, you are,
I'm the girl next door.
exactly. So when people was like, how's she gonna call her book Plain Jane? They not playing about that woman. I was like, if you meet her, you would understand.
Thank you. I appreciate that because that's the way I live my life. I'm no frills. I'm just me, just plain Janes rocking around in blue jeans. I'm a child of the '60s. I was raised in blue jeans and tank tops. So this what you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get. And
Yeah.
I think congratulations are in order. I think you and your husband, Bill Overton, just celebrated in May your 40th
Yes,
wedding
we did.
anniversary. Is that correct? Oh, man, that's
40th
amazing.
wedding anniversary.
Yep.
That's inc that's incredible.
Yes, yes. And of course, you talked about
And
your
we've
four
known
daughters.
each other for much longer.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. So talk to me right at the top. When did you make the decision to write this memoir? Whenever I interview someone who's written a book about their life and their experiences, it's always like, why now? And what is it that you would want people to get from your story? And the thing is, you're such a great storyteller. I mean, of course, that's what your career
Thank
has been.
you.
But
Thank you.
why now? Why did you feel like now was the time to kind of do what you do to tell your story of your experience and your life and your journey?
It's actually a 25-year journey, so it's not
Right.
like it just happened overnight. Um, and so it's a quarter, well, not quite a quarter yet, about 100. But, it's a lot of who I am, and I wanted to talk about all parts of me, not just the Hollywood part. So, talking about growing up and, being a child of, in a house of 6, 5 girls and 1 boy, and he was a baby, and so it was just something that was in me to show who I was in my core and not what Hollywood saw me to be. So, you know, Plain Jane just I think I started calling myself Plain Jane back in high school, actually,
Mm.
now that I remember. When it just said it, when it just came out of my mouth, I kind of remember that, so that's the way I've always seen myself. No
And,
airs, fluff, just you see what you get. You get
and
what
one of the things that I appreciated about you once I, again got to meet you and spend a little bit of time with you, is how well, and now I can look back and think about it, well you've always managed to retain focus on who you really are, despite how all the ways that people looked at you, saw you, maybe only saw certain aspects of you, made assumptions about you. And we know in the world, whether it's Hollywood, certainly sports broadcasting, news in general, it can be easy or it can be difficult to navigate all of those things that people see, celebrate, or not, and you still maintain hold of yourself. And we see it all the time where people lose themselves in that. I know that some of that is your upbringing, but let's go back to when you were the first woman to do CBS, the NFL Today. Um, y-
wow,
you know,
you skipped a lot.
yeah, well, I want to start there, and then we
You
can
wanna
go
start
anywhere you wanted to go. But I look at how now we look at whether it's ESPN or you look at any sportscast, and we're just used to seeing women. It's my
very
kids
true.
think it's no big deal, and I kinda explain to them, "You don't understand what a big deal it is because to you, you turn it on and they're hosting shows, they're doing sideline interviews, they're on the court, they're on the field, they're analysts, they have and I try to take them back to, no, when Miss Kennedy broke out in the NFL, which is probably the most traditional of the major three sports. You could argue baseball too, but football is still like America's game. What what that was for you and your ability to manage what that was as a young woman, you know. I mean, what was that? What was that like?
Well, first of all, I love sports, and, it was sort of in my blood. My dad loved sports. We would watch wrestling matches, every weekend. Bobo Brazil, do you remember Bobo Brazil, the coconut butt, and, Haystack Muldoon, and all he had to do was sit on you and he won. So all of those things, and my dad played baseball and softball, and, I competed in the Junior Olympics when I was in 5th grade and in the standing broad jump and, softball throw, which I don't believe they do anymore. But, sports was just something that I loved. I guess it was because, my dad wanted a boy and he got all these girls before he finally got a boy. And so we were all raised, like we would play in the streets. We would make toys. Back then you could make a toy out of a spool of thread and you wrap it around it and then you just put a little bit of some buttons on the to make wheels and you just put the string on it and you just pull it. So I was a home girl. That's all I was. I was just a home girl, and I didn't see any world that didn't have sports in it because I grew up in Cleveland when Jim Brown was king.
Yes.
And so then, you come around, you switch around, and now you're seeing Muhammad Ali, and his rise and all of that. It was just something that was important to me, that it was part of my spirit. I remember, gosh, it was several years ago, and I had done a TV show, and they wanted to gift each of the people that were starring on the show, and they asked us what is um, point, a significant date in your lifetime, and I told them October 1, 1985, and so at the end of the show, they gave us necklaces with a keychain on it, and it had a ruby at that stone, and it said the date that the month that you had selected. And they asked me, why was this date significant to me? It was because after all the struggling I had done before even sports, because as an actress, as a singer, as a dancer, modeling, all of that that I had done. That's why I was surprised when you skipped over that and you said, let's go straight to sports. But I understand. I understand because sports is big. So here I am. They said, what made that date important to you? I said, with all the stuff that I had been through, and I was only 25 years old, I found myself on that day sitting ringside at Muhammad Ali's fight at the Thriller in Manila. And that was the day when I saw people from all over the world, and they were all in garb. Back then people dressed. They
Yes.
didn't just come in jeans and a t-shirt. People dressed in all these languages. And I'm in the middle of all of this. And Ali is standing just a few feet away from me, and Joe Frazier is just on the other side. And I'm looking at all this and I'm going, how did I get here? And so that date was very pivotal for me because it was a landmark as to, okay, Jayne, you have done well. You've made your way. And sports was a huge part of that.
So again, you're wondering like, well, why did you start there? Why did you start there? And you led right into what I wanted to say, and then we're gonna
Oh,
go.
okay.
It's on the wall literally in front of me in the studio. And I had a guest on my show who I actually showed it. On my wall is an original Ali Frazier Thriller in Manila poster, framed, that
Really?
I've had since I was 15 years old, living in a small town in the Jersey Shore, Long Branch, New Jersey. My degree is in art. Most people don't always know. They think I'm a journal that was I studied journalism in school, but my degree is.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
yeah,
was a
yeah.
huge Leroy Neiman fan, but of course, as a poor
Oh my
kid
gosh, yeah,
in New Jersey, I had no way of getting any original art. Well, that poster was on a telephone pole around the corner from my house, and I took it down, and I've had it ever since.
good for
It's
you.
framed in my office, and I was like, I that connection between you and Ali and Philip Manila, I was like, "Man, who would have thought that our paths would cross in the ways that they have and
Yeah,
tied to that moment?" And you're not the first guest I ever had on the show that was directly connected to that fight in some way. And so that's
wow.
why I was like, "Man, I can't believe I'm talking to, like, the 3rd person who had a direct connection to that moment." And like you said, the moment touched us in so many ways all around the world, that particular fight, and of course, that man, Muhammad Ali. But
Yeah,
let's go back to, earlier, the lead up to those experiences.
okay.
One of the things that when I talk to people on my show, and, most of us didn't wake up and say when we were little, or maybe you did. I know I didn't. I didn't know I was gonna end up being the editor in chief of Black Enterprise Magazine when I was a little kid.
I
I
know
didn't
what you're
I
gonna
didn't know what journalists did. I didn't know anything about that. And so I like to talk to people like, what did you think you were going to be doing? Where did you feel like you were headed? Where did people tell you were headed? And at what point in your life did you realize, no, this is what I'm going to be doing? And of course, you've done so many things, so it's not like it's only one thing. But talk about that journey from being, one of, a bunch of siblings and one little brother and sports and playing and making your own toys in Cleveland, Ohio. And then at some point, this opportunity, and you had to see yourself in that opportunity. It could have been very easy for you to say, I'm an actor, I'm a dancer, I'm a model, because that's what the world would expect of you. Tell me about the transition from who you were when you were little to who you became ultimately.
Well, let me start by saying sometimes destiny has a place for you before you even know it. So, the book starts off, the first chapter starts off with I used to dance and swing around and twirl around in my grandmother's front yard. And I wore these cat eye frame glasses that had rhinestones on the corners. You probably remember them, the cat eye frames. And I would prance around the yard, and I had palm trees on my shorts. And I would tell everyone I was gonna grow up and be a movie star. At 4 years old, I knew. Even when years later, I kept telling myself, "Oh, you're gonna be a politician. Oh, you're gonna be this or that." There was something that knew within me that I was gonna go and get it. I was going to end up in this business because I would dance around and say, I'm sorry, prance around. That's what my grandmother would say. So and then everybody would tell me, stop doing that, Jane. Why are you doing that? And my grandmama would say, don't bother Jane. If she wants to be a movie star, let Fancy Prancy go around and be a movie star all she wants. And that's basically who I was never. I was never a what do you call them, wallflower? But, I was always out there making noise, um, making things happen. I always believed in myself, even when things came to me that I hadn't even planned. I remember in, high school, we were going to the teachers had selected 5 girls to go to Girls State to represent, our school at Girls State, which was gonna be held in, I think it was Athens, Ohio, and, we were on the bus headed there, and 2 of my girlfriends convinced me that I was gonna run for governor. I hadn't thought about it at all. They said, "You should run for governor. You're so good at all this stuff. People like you, you have a way of getting with people." And I said, "Okay, I think that's a good idea." So I ran for governor. And so the first week you run for your offices that you had chosen, and then the second week you perform the task of your office. And so I lost the election, and I ended up being, oh gosh, I don't even remember. But anyway, it wasn't governor. And so then at the end of the summit, they were voting on who was gonna be the 2 senators to go to Washington, DC, and they called my name. They called my name. Jayne Kennedy is going to Washington. Jane Harrison is going to Washington, DC as the senator from Ohio. And so, I'm going, "Hey, I'm going into politics." 'Cause I had seen Shirley Chisholm, I had listened to her words, and I was so inspired by her. And, that's what I was thinking. I was gonna end up going to college, and, I was going to have modeling be the source of my financial, needs, and, then I was gonna end up in in Washington, DC, working as a senator. So when I got to Washington as a senator from Ohio, they then had an election, and I had decided on the way that I was gonna be vice president of the United States. And it was important to me that it was vice president and not president, because we were senators. So that meant that whoever won, the president would basically have nothing to do the rest of the week, but the vice president ran the Senate. So
Oh, wow.
so I ran the Senate. I was sworn in by Vice President, um, oh my gosh, what is his name? Vice President Spiro Agnew. And, I ran the Senate for the rest of the week. And, it was incredible, but that's when I still thought that I was going into politics. And then all of a sudden, I ended up doing a show called Out of Sight with Leon and Mike, and I said, "Here's that acting bug nibbling at me again," and decided to go to California.
Wow. Wow. So, if I wanna share one of my experiences with you with my upbringing and see if that jives with what kind of set the mindset for you to basically whenever you set your mind to do something, it never seems to occur to you that like you're it's like, why not? I was blessed with a mother that used to say I'm allergic to boredom because I have so many interests and music, I play trombone, I love to dance too, not like on the stage, but I just like dancing. Or again, I told you that I was an artist, a writer, even when I was a little preschooler, I didn't know what you would do, like you do it for a living. And my family would be like, you know, why that boy doing all these different things? And my mother used to say, whatever he wants to do, just let him do it. And
Thank you.
I always had was being reinforced that there was there was nothing that I couldn't do if I wanted to do it, and it was okay for me to want to do a lot of different things, and it was
Good
okay.
for you. Good for you. Good for your
And
mom and dad.
yeah, and it was help. It really helped me, especially as a young adult, to navigate my way to doing the things that were meaningful to me without feeling I was boxed into a particular lane about, no, this is what you should be doing. And of course, when I graduated, people want I was academically gifted, and so they had the doctor, lawyer, they had the traditional kind, and I was like, "Yeah, I could do that, but that's not what I wanna do." And my mother was
Yeah,
always the one that was like, "No, whatever he wants to do, let him do it." Um,
yeah.
was that part of the environment or the value system that shaped you as your grandmother said, "Hey, let her let her prance around if that's what she wants to do. Let her be a star."
I grew up in a very large family, and part of the book deals a lot about my family, back to my great-great-grandparents. And so I talk a lot about, my grandmother, my mom's mom, and, how she was such a strong woman. And my grandfather, her father was, um, they ran a tobacco farm. So he ran a tobacco farm during the week, but he was this incredible musician, never trained. He could never took a lesson, never could he couldn't even read music, but he could bang on a piano like Jerry Lee Lewis. And a lot of times I say Jerry Lee Lewis took after him because he was incredible. And so he would go around in church and he would just perform in the church. People he would walk in if they if the pianist was already playing, my grandfather would push him to the side and take over. And then when my mother and her 2 sisters were the singers, the backup singers, and they would sing, right? So when they leave, then they take off and they go to another church. And so then I come to find out, they actually had a radio show back in the early 40s. They had a radio show. A Black family had a radio show in Virginia, and they would sing not gospel music, but, my grandfather played in nightclubs, and he saw a pretty woman, he'd jump off the stage and grab her, you know, but that was him, and then my grandparents on my father's side, were totally different, well, as far as I know. My grandfather was white and my grandmother African American, and, back in those days, they weren't allowed to marry. They weren't allowed to live in the same house. So my father had a very difficult childhood at age I'm sorry, at age 10, his mother was shot and killed in front of him, and
Wow.
she died in his arms. And he ended up having to raise his siblings. There were 10 children in his family. One was in the army, one had gone off, and my dad was the only other son. And so he raised all of his sisters, um, as best as he could. Some of them went on to college. But my dad always wanted to instill within us the value of family and why that was so important to us. And I've gone so off track, I totally forgot what you asked me,
No,
but,
no, it is on track because again, it's talking about the things that shaped you
that's
that
true.
made you look at possibilities and what so it sounds like, 1, you had a strong family foundation that gave you a
Yes,
certain amount of confidence to do
yes,
whatever you wanted to do. It didn't occur to you that you couldn't do it, and that was reinforced. You come from what I tell my kids, you come from good stock. And I tell them
yes,
stories about
yes,
what
yeah,
my mother went through and what my father went through and what their parents went through and why we are the way we are today, and a lot of that is you came from good stock, and that was
yeah,
reinforced your mindset about
and
what's possible for
and
you.
rough
Yes,
times,
yes,
and then and raising your children so that they don't have to live the rough times that you did. My mom would talk always about when she moved to, Washington, DC, and she would get on the bus, and she learned very quickly to get a gun and a knife. And she would never get on a bus, never go out without her gun and her knife. And she said even the bus drivers would try to attack you.
yes.
But she said then so she raised her kids to be strong. She raised her girls to be strong, to know how to defend themselves. And my dad, he had to raise his sisters. So he wanted to make sure his children, his girls, were good, strong women. And the night that I decided to leave to come to California, I was really worried about what my parents would say. because we were very close knit family. And my mom was washing dishes, and I went to the kitchen sink and I started rinsing. And I said, Mom, after we get married, we're thinking about moving to California because we had an apartment, but we know that if we get settled now in an apartment, it might take a long time and maybe never that we make the leap to go to California. So we gave up the apartment, and my mom said, "You know what, Jayne? You have something special to do. You were meant to do something special, and it's not here." She says, "So you go to California, and you make your mark in California." And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. I thought that she would be angry with me. I
Mhm.
thought my dad would be angry with me. He was not, and they supported me every step of the way, every step of the way.
If we were giving people like an appetizer, so their mouth will be watering by the time they pick up this book, what would you hope that they would either focus on or come away with, as kind of there's so many things to choose from, but kind of the thing that would really help people get their mindset for reading this book?
Well, I think that, there's several, um, and, I hope that people pick up on all of them, because it was not a singular message throughout the book,
Right,
through
right.
line in the book. It was a life journey where I learned, and I created from what I learned, um, ups and downs, hard times included. But I think that one of the major things for me was to learn that you are not alone and that you can do whatever you want to do if you dare to dream. But a lot of times we think that we are alone and we think that, well, what I was just saying, what we were just talking about, you know, but you have to know that you're strong enough to go forward. You have to know that you can believe in yourself. If I had stopped believing in myself, I would have been out of the business long before anyone knew my name. But it was important to me. Somebody called me the other day. What was it? They said that I was the uh, queen of queen of rotation or something like that. I don't remember the exact thing, but, you know, because I shifted so many times in my career, but it doesn't mean that I let go of any of that. I just added another layer, and I think that I would like for people to know that you belong and that you are strong and that you can do whatever you wanna do. Don't let people tell you that you can't, and I have so many examples of people that have told me, you know, a gentleman that I used to run into at NBC, um, he was a shoe shine man. So every day, people would come through the doors of NBC all day long and sit in his chair. And you would find them still sitting after their shoe shine was done because they found him so intriguing and so comforting. And one day he asked me, he said, Jayne, can I talk to you? And I said, "Sure," you know, so he said, "Can we go to lunch?" I said, "Okay, let's go to lunch," because I worked at NBC a lot back
Mhm.
then. And, so we go to lunch, and he says to me, "Jayne, you have the ability to soar." He says, "And don't let anyone deny that for you. Don't let anyone turn you from that goal." Because you have the ability to soar, and not only for yourself, but you are going to open the doors for Black women to follow, for Black men to follow, for Black children to follow, and it was important to me to know and realize that when he said it, that here is an opportunity that I can help other people, that I can make a way for people, that I can, you know, I can teach you to not just go through life with blinders on, to open up your vision and see what else there is to offer. I'm hoping that I can, through Plain Jane, that I can say, you know, family does matter. I thought that the Plain Jane journey was about, you know, finding who I was in my authentic self. But then I realized by the end, when I got there, I said, I keep doing this. I don't want to tell you the end.
Right, right. No,
I want you to see the
no
end. I want you to
spoilers,
see it,
no
but I
spoilers, Miss
keep
Kennedy, no spoilers.
I keep talking myself into that trap, so I'm gonna let you read that part. But
Yeah.
you know, um, I have met so many people that have told me the impact that I've made on their lives. So I'm hoping that this story can make an impact on the lives of many, many more. People that have never heard of me, um, people that are in their 30s and they have not heard of me, people in their 20s and they're asking their mom, and their mom and grandmas go, "Oh, hold on a minute, child. Let me go show you. She was in Ebony magazine. She was all over Jet magazine, you know." And if it hadn't been for Bob Johnson, I may have not have had a career as well. But so many people, that have told me that I was so pivotal in their lives, and I would like to return that. I would like to try to make a difference in your life. And I'm hoping that you can relate to something in Plain Jane that triggers something for you that can help you understand your path. And
Yep.
that's critical for me.
I absolutely that absolutely resonates with me.
I have one here. Hold on.
Okay.
Here we
Yes.
go. Here we go.
There
Plain
we
Jane.
go. There we go.
Yeah.
To me, you're a queen in so many ways. Your reinvention, pivoting, like you said, being able to see new opportunities and move toward that with confidence and resilience. Because the thing that struck me when I met you in person the first time was the level of vitality and energy that comes from within and without that is so natural for you, and when you talk about the journey, like I said, it wasn't like your family didn't come through tough times. It wasn't like you didn't come through challenging times, but to be able to come out and as we say, at church, I don't look like what I've been through. And in fact, I look better than what I've
Yeah.
been through. And so it's an amazing testament to and a source of hope and inspiration, I think, to especially the young people who do feel, things are happening so fast and sometimes you feel overwhelmed and I think this is gonna be a great book. I know I'm gonna be giving copies away to give people that message that you can do it, you
You
can
can do it.
navigate this. It's in you. It's not out there, it's in you, and to move forward boldly and know that you can do it, because you're such an inspirational example. Here's what I like about the plain Jane part. Often people will look at someone who's very successful and think of them as so exceptional that they think they can't do it.
Yes.
So, and they're like, "Oh, that's Jayne Kennedy." I mean, she's Jayne Kennedy, but your authenticity says, "Yes, I am Jayne Kennedy, but you're special too."
Yes,
And
you
and I think that's the beautiful thing about you. I mean, I'm sure it comes through in the book, but it's one of the things that I really appreciated when I spent the time that I got to spend with you at Women of Power. And
thank you.
you know,
Thank you. I appreciate that. I
and
appreciate that.
you and your
I'm
daughter
really
were you are a force. You and your daughters, with your family.
They will like to hear that. They will like to hear that. They are a force. I am very proud of them. I did the right thing. I gone back and forth, over and over and over again. Did I make the right move, leaving my career and staying home with my family? Did I do this? Should have done this way, that way, this way? And I always come up with the same answer. My daughters are everything to me.
Yeah,
And so, that the fact that I am so freaking proud of them. Cheyenne, Savannah, Copper, Zaire. I don't know what I would do without them. I don't know what I would do them. Even the stuff where they, send me a text message, "Mom, that text is horrible. Take it down. Mom, you didn't do it right. Mom, you didn't do this right. Mom, you should do better. Mom, you should." But then there are always the times where they say, "Mom, you're just amazing." You
yes,
know, and I love that. When most deaf, we were riding down the street. One more. We're riding down the street. I picked them all up from school, and we're riding down Wilshire Boulevard. I don't know if you know Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles, very congested.
yes.
And so riding down Wilshire Boulevard, and all of a sudden, I hear on the radio, Mos Def is singing, and he says, "Man, she was so ill. Word to my mother, man. She was like Jayne Kennedy. Word to my mother, man. She was that." And I slammed on the brakes, and I'm going, "What did he say?" My youngest daughter, Zaire, she said, "Did a rapper just say your name on TV?" The other one, "Why is he saying your name, mom?" because I was mom to them. I wasn't who that person was, whoever
Right.
that person was. And then Savannah looks at me and she said, "Mom, you got street cred."
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely you do. Absolutely you do. I do remember those days when you were, again, the days when somebody black was gonna be on TV, that was call everybody, Jayne
Yeah, it
Kennedy's
was.
on. It wasn't just get in front of the TV, it was get on the phone because you didn't want somebody to be mad at you because you didn't tell me that she was on TV. So, again, it's
Right.
always so refreshing talking to you, because you hold both of those things well. You're just being you, and then most deaf is saying, "She's as bad as Jayne Kennedy," and you're like, "What?" It's a beautiful,
So
beautiful thing.
the next day I went to go exercise,
Yeah,
and I said, "Oh my god, I can't do." I got out my album, Love Your Body,
right,
and I said, "This is too hard, I can't do this," and so I went to the, shop, the workout center, and I
right.
said, I was trying that, and I said, "I can't do this either," and I said, "Oh my god, I'm so out of shape, so what am I gonna do?" And I said, the as soon as I said that, over the loudspeaker, Mos Def came on again. She was so ill, mother. She looked just like Jayne Kennedy. Word to my mother, man. And I said, "I'm gonna look like Jayne Kennedy."
That is so amazing.
So that's when I started trying to lose weight. I had gained so much weight at one point. And so, I'm on my journey. I've done so good so far. We'll continue.
Well, again, your vitality is amazing. I'm a big health and longevity enthusiast personally, and for Black Enterprise because we have a Black Enterprise Health is Wealth franchise about living longer and living well, and you're even in that way. To be able to share that you're on that path is going to be
Yes.
inspiration to somebody that says, if Jayne Kennedy is on that path, I need to get on that path too. So it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wonderful. Just being who you are, doing what you do is a wonderful thing. Listen,
Thank you. Thank
it's
you.
such an honor and a pleasure. I knew it would be from my talking to you before to have you on the show, just to have
Thank you
conversation with
so much.
you. Plain Jane, I
Thank
believe, is coming out September 2nd. Is that right?
Sep September 2,
September
and
2nd.
I'll be on Good Morning America that morning.
Oh, great.
And then we'll be doing, Tamron Hall show and the litany of other shows, and gotta do Sherry Shepherd's show,
Yes.
because all of that I don't know if you know the backstory with that too, because, I would been looking for a publisher for 40. I think I'd gone through 42 publishers, and they had all turned it down.
What?
And I called, Robin Roberts, and I said, do you have any advice? Who can I go to?" And she said, "Well, let me think on it," and she said, "I'll call you back." Next thing I know, the next morning, she's on television. "Jayne Kennedy doesn't have a publisher." She said,
Robin said, "I'll fix that."
I know, right? And then so this guy he's watching it, and he calls his friend over at Disney, "You gotta find Jayne Kennedy. She doesn't have a publisher." And next thing I know, I end up with a contract with Disney. So,
Wow.
count your blessings,
Yes.
but also know that they can come from all different ways.
Yes.
Just
And
be open to them.
that's another great example is you have not because you ask not because you let people know. I don't have a
Right.
publisher. And next thing you know, you had a publisher and that's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Listen, again, it's such a great pleasure and honor to have you on the show. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to read the book. As someone who's been a longtime admirer of yours, I'm going to make sure young people know who you are and get them copies of the book. So that's an assignment to you, audience. Don't just buy the book for yourself. Buy copies for other people that you know who should know
Yes.
Jayne Kennedy if they
Yes.
don't. And if they already do know it, you know they're going to get a thrill out of reading this story. Thank you so much,
Hope
Ms.
so.
Kennedy,
I
for
hope
being
so. Thank you, and
on the
you
show.
can follow me on my website,
Yes.
janekennedy.com, and I have a new fragrance line coming out as well. So
Oh,
it's called Jayne
what's the
Kennedy
name of it?
Sun and Jayne Kennedy Moon.
Say it again. It's called what?
I have a new fragrance line
Mhm.
coming, and it's called Jayne Kennedy Sun and Jayne Kennedy Moon
Oh,
for night
okay.
and day, and, you can find it on janekennedy.com.
And I think I still follow
I
you
think it
on Instagram as well, right?
Yes, 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 but the
Yes.
the website will launch next week. Yes.
Great. That is
Okay.
so wonderful. Thank you so much
Thank
for being on the show.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you.
You certainly blessed me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm blessed sitting here all in the blessings because you're here. So this is great. Okay,
Okay.
guys, I promise I delivered. This has been another great edition of Black Enterprise Beyond the Hype. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr. Don't forget to check out the show at blackenterprise.com. You can watch it on demand at the Black Enterprise YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, comment, share, let everybody know this book is coming and that these new fragrances are coming from Jayne Kennedy. It's gonna be a great experience when this book comes out. Make sure you got it on your reading list. This is Alfred Edmond
Yeah.
Jr., and we will see you next time.
I am doubly honored to receive the Earl Graves Senior Vanguard Award, named after Bee's founder. Mr. Graves was always a guiding light for me and many others. He always had advice, a kind word, and even a playful jab for me.
Coming here lifts my spirits because I know that no matter what happens around us, I think we have a chance to do some great things.
Networking is extremely important.
This is a conference I definitely will look forward to coming to.
Excellence is the base. That's the base. The goal is exceptionalism.
Anybody that is a business person needs to be here.
For more than 5 decades, we've had your back. Beyond the Hype and Black Enterprise have everything you need to elevate your excellence.